If you've ever struggled with collars that twist, fold awkwardly, or refuse to sit properly, this tutorial is for you. In the previous tutorials, we drafted both the stand and the shirt collar. And now it's time to bring everything together and construct a professional two-piece shirt collar. In this lesson, I will show you the step-by-step process of assembling, sewing and attaching the collar to achieve a neat, clean and perfect finish. So guys, get your fabric, interfacing and sewing tools ready, and let's create a perfect two-piece shirt collar together. My name is Bolaji and this is Regi School of Fashion. These are the pieces I cut out for the construction of our two-piece shirt collar. These are the pattern we drafted in the previous lessons. So in case you missed those videos, kindly check the description area of this particular video for the link to the tutorials. When I was cutting these pieces, my fabric was on fold. And as you can see, here is the shirt collar and this is the stand collar. This part is the center back, this is the center back. So which means my fabrics were on fold when I was cutting. So I cut this like this. So what I have here and here are the same. So I cut out two pieces of this on fold and I cut out two pieces of this on fold as well, which I have this. Then after cutting, I fused my top collar. Because I have two pieces, one is going to be the top collar and the other is going to be the under collar. So as for me, this is my under collar. My under collar is not fused, but for my top collar, I fused this with a light interfacing. Then for the stand collar, I have this for the top collar and I will be using this as my under collar. I fused both fabrics because the fabric I use for the under collar is very light, so I have to make it a bit thicker. So I fuse this with a very light interfacing, popularly known as ST. But as for the other pieces, I used a cotton interfacing, popularly known as cloth stay. So now that I have all my pieces ready, the next step is to start the construction properly. But before that, for my shirt collar, the under collar is a bit shorter than the top collar. This is because after joining the two together, I would like my seam to be hidden inside the collar. So that is the purpose for making this a bit shorter than this. And what I did was, for the upper part, which is this part, not the lower part. So for the upper part, I measured 1/8 of an inch downward. That is 1/0.125. So from this edge, I measure it downward, I marked it, then I trimmed that part off. So if you notice, when I place these two together, one will be shorter than the other. So my under collar will be shorter than my top collar. Having said this, the next step is to construct our shirt collar first. This is our shirt collar and I will be constructing the two pieces together like so. I will place this right side facing the right side and I'm going to stitch from edge to edge following the shape I have. So I will make sure the center falls at the center, the two centers are properly aligned. Then I will stitch from edge to edge. Okay, so let's assume I've stitched both the top and the under collar together. Then I will open it up like so and make my seam allowance fall on the under collar. Then I will apply a top stitch. So I will top stitch from this edge to the other edge. Then I will take it to my ironing board and give it a press. So after giving it a press, I will have both facing each other like so. I will have the wrong side facing the wrong side. So I will be doing this off the camera, then I will be back to show you the result. So guys, now I have the top and the under collar joined together, as you can see. Then I applied my top stitch and I have this. So the next step is to open this up again. Then I will position it right side facing the right side. So what I'm trying to do is I want to close the two sides. So I will make this align. So I will stitch with 1/2 inch of seam allowance I added. So after stitching, I will stitch from this edge downward with 1/2 inch. So after stitching, I will turn this inside out. So I will turn it out and make sure the edges come out properly by making use of a sharp object. Then I will repeat the same process on the other side. So I will stitch the other side also, turn this inside out. I will take it to my ironing board. I will give it a press after stitching. Then I'm going to close the opening completely. Then I will stitch again. So in this case, I'm going to stitch on the right side. After turning the edges inside out, giving it a very good press to make it flat, then I will just hold it like this, take it back to my sewing machine and stitch the edges. I'm not going to use the whole seam allowance I added for this part. I'm going to use half of the seam allowance. The seam allowance is 1/2 inch, so I will be stitching with 1/4 inch. So guys, now I have the two sides closed properly, as you can see. But before closing the lower part completely, I wanted to show you what the inside looked like. So you can see what I did is, after stitching, I made sure I trimmed off the seam allowance I have around there, most especially the one at the upper part, so that by the time I'm turning this inside out, the inside of my collar will not be bulky. You can see what I have here. So this helped me to be able to bring this out as much as possible. Then I can actually push it outward with the tip of my scissors. So now I can proceed in closing the lower parts. Now I have the opening of my collar stitched, as you can see. So the next step is to join the stand collar together with the shirt collar. So in doing this, the positioning goes like this. Please, you have to take note of this arrangement so that you will not end up losing your collar after attaching it to your shirt. So here is the top collar, my top collar, and this is my under collar. You have to differentiate between your top and your under collar, even though you are making use of the same fabrics. So here is my top collar and here is my under collar. Under collar for the stand collar is going together with the top collar of the shirt. As you can see, this part is my top collar, and the part I have joining as a center is my under collar. So under collar together with the top collar of my stand collar. So the under collar of my stand collar is going together with the top collar of my shirt collar. So which means I'm going to place this right side facing the right side of my top collar, and the parts we are joining together is the curvy part of the collar, not the straight part. So I'm going to place this like so, then I will flip it over. Now what you are seeing is the under collar of my shirt collar. So this is the top collar of my stand collar. So the right side of this will be also facing the right side of my the right side of my shirt under collar. So which means the shirt collar is going to be in between both the stand collars. This is a under and this is the top collar. Now I will make sure the edges align properly. I will make sure the center align properly. So that is why I have a notches at the center of my collar. I have a notch here. I already know the center of this. I know the center of this as well. So I will make sure the three centers align first, then I'll pin them together. Okay, now I can proceed in pinning the remaining parts of the collar. So I will make sure the three edges align properly. Okay guys, now I have the three pieces pinned together and it's time to stitch. But before stitching, I'm going to measure half of an inch upward from these edges, which is my seam allowance. I will mark the point, so which is here. On the other side, I will repeat the same process, my half of an inch of seam allowance. So I will take this to my sewing machine and I will stitch from this point, which is the half of an inch point I measured upward, and I will follow the shape using the seam allowance I added, which is also half of an inch. So I will stitch all round like this. I will take it round and bring it to the other side, then stop exactly on this point. So guys, now I have the three pieces joined together, as you can see. So the next step is to turn this inside out, but before turning it inside out, I'm going to trim down my seam allowance. I will trim it off so that the inside will not be bulky. So after trimming off my seam allowance, then I will turn this like so, and I will have my shirt collar this way. So the two edges has to align properly. So after trimming down my seam allowance, I will take this to my ironing board. I will give it a good press, then I will be back to show you the last step. So guys, this is what I have after giving my collar a good press. So this is the other side of the collar. Now the next step is to attach the collar to the neckline of my shirt. So in doing this, the positioning goes thus. The top collar of my stand collar, you can see this is the top collar of my stand collar and this is the under collar of my shirt collar. So the top collar of my stand collar will be facing the right side of my shirt. So that is the right side facing the right side, and I'll make sure the center align properly. Then I will bring this to the edges. I will make sure the edges align properly as well. And because I have my seam allowance left behind, you can see this will make it easier for me. So I will align the edges like so, then pin it all around. I will repeat the same process on the other side. Okay, then I can proceed in pinning the remaining parts together. So guys, now I have the remaining parts pinned together, as you can see. The next step is to take this to my sewing machine, and I will be stitching with half of an inch of seam allowance from this edge all around the neckline to the other edge. So after stitching, I'm going to fold this inward like so, and I'll give it a press. I will flip my seam allowance inward. I will give it a press. After giving it a press, then I will cover it up with the under collar. Then I will fold in my seam allowance as well, then apply an edge stitches this way. So I will have everything properly closed like so. Guys, here is the final look of our two-piece shirt sleeve. As you can see, I've attached this all around the neckline of my shirt. Then I close the inner part of the collar neatly. I close the inner part of the collar neatly, as you can see, after which I top stitched all around the edges of the collar, and I have this. So this is the back side, so this is the front side, and this is the button allowance. Then I have my collar like so. After attaching my button and the button holes, so everything would be like this. So guys, thank you for watching this video to the end. Try yours and share your experience with me at the comment section. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and put on the notification so that you will get notified anytime I drop a new video. Thank you once again, and I will see you in my next video. Till then, always remember, there is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs.